This is Chip Maxwell, and you're listening to the Retire Smart Podcast with David Brooks. This episode highlights upcoming teammates events to recruit mentors for the nearly 1,100 kids waiting in Omaha and Lincoln. From there, David and Chip break down Trump's proposed H-1B visa fees, new tariff debates, interest rate cuts, and the case for gold as the dollar weakens. David, they just keep getting younger and younger. Claire and Kim join us in the studio today, our two newest hires. We're growing. Things are happening.
Well, sadly, Chip, you can combine their ages, and it doesn't even catch my age, let alone your massively higher age.
These people are even younger than my children. Yes. Oh, well, that's progress. That's progress.
Yes, sadly, I think that's the same for me. We are getting old.
Be careful. You're right on my heels, pal. Wow. We'll be celebrating your 60th soon enough. All right. In the meantime, hey, I just want to mention one more time, David, remind people, listen during the breaks, we'll give you the specifics, but we've got those two events coming up for teammates to recruit mentors. And as a matter of fact, you were at the tailgate party before the Nebraska-Michigan game at the Governor's Mansion, which featured teammates. Des Moines Adams and his team at Teammates were there at the event. And here come these events to recruit mentors, there are hundreds of kids, I think it's close to 1,000 in the Omaha and Lincoln metro areas waiting on mentors from teammates.
Yeah, these are fantastic events. Just find out what it's about. I think you're going to get a meal out of it. So
Lunch and learn.
Yeah, we're going to have one October 1st right here at the Midwest Learning Center in our office. And then basically 2 weeks later down at Runza's national headquarters in Lincoln. So I can guess what you're going to be fed that day. October 14th. And you'll be in and out in less than an hour, and you're going to learn what it means to mentor. And just, the whole mentoring program takes less than an hour a week. You do it on a public school site. You're really giving back to the community. And it's about 1,100 kids, last I checked, with Des Moines.
That's north of 1,000.
Yeah, okay. Between Lincoln and Omaha. And help them out, folks. Help us out. Recruit some mentors. It's a great way to give back to your community.
An hour a week for you, a life-changing impact for a young person. All right, listen during the breaks for the specifics. Into the news we go. David, Fox Business headline, business leaders warn Trump's $100,000 H-1B visa fee could hurt innovation, drive talent out of U.S. Even some of his allies are critical of this move. Now, the pro position is we want to attract top talent into the United States, so don't have these visas. The criticism is, no, we're undercutting American talent with cheaper foreign imports. It's a more sophisticated version of the argument we've sometimes heard in Omaha about the meatpacking plants that, well, if you offered a decent wage, you'd get Americans to work there. It's because we let you undercut it with, again, cheap foreign imports. How do you see it, David?
Well, these HB1 visas are not targeted at blue-collar jobs.
They're high-tech jobs.
These are very high-tech, very specific skill sets that, unfortunately, American universities are not churning out qualified applicants for. So they're having to go to the Far East, in particular, in India, Malaysia, and they're bringing in talent from across the globe to do certain things. These are high-paying jobs. So if you're like, hey, that's a fair tax or tariff. Now, I don't know if 100,000 is the right number. That seems a little steep because it could, for a smaller startup in tech, it could make them offshore those jobs and do them outside the U.S. borders. So, but I think there has to be some happy medium there where if we're going to bring in talent, exactly, then you have to pay for it. Of course, this goes back to the golden visa, right, which was going to be $5 million for entrepreneurs that want to become a citizen in the U.S. to protect their wealth. There's no stronger nation in the world that you can protect the wealth that you've garnered, et cetera. So, I'm kind of middle of the road on this. I don't like, again, it should have been forecast. What I have a problem with most of what the administration is doing is how they are communicating it. It seems too much from the cuff and not enough telegraphing because, again, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm growing a business. We have 2 brand new hires sitting in our studio right now. We're constantly hiring. I want to continue to grow, but it's very hard with the landscape going up and down and legislative and regulations changing on the fly when the very thing that Trump ran for, that I voted for, was deregulation and let the businesses figure it out, right? So, again, it's just they need to do a better job. And, again, Ludnick and Navarro, those guys don't sell sell it very well, in my humble opinion. And they need to do a better job of telegraphing this information well in advance so it's not caught off guard or off by surprise, et cetera. But in the end, yes, I think there should be some kind of fee that they pay to the government to get those visas, to get the talent here, especially if you're going to replace an American worker. So now we've got some form of revenue that the American worker maybe would not be paying.
Well, speaking of placing a fee on foreign imports, here's a Reuters headline: U.S. lawmakers to introduce bipartisan bill to axe tariffs on coffee. There are two members of the House leading this bill. One is Democrat Ro Khanna from California. The other is Nebraska Republican Don Bacon. Don Bacon's saying that it's time for Congress to reclaim its authority on tariffs. Well, the Constitution does give Congress authority over tariffs, but then Congress in turn has granted statutory, through statutes, has delegated authority to the president in tariffs. So there is a legitimate debate about where the how far the president can exercise his powers on tariffs. Do you think this is going to go anywhere?
I think it will get some headway and some steam with the current political environment. And again, it is bipartisan, so we'll give kudos to that part of it. Again, Don Bacon is positioning himself, we know, for some future things at this point when he's not going to try to retain his current seat. And then people were bragging that, and Don Bacon's quoted in the interview. He did an interview along with a release article that, I had to pay like $4 or $7 more for coffee, and a couple of the Democrats. So one of them posted, hey, this bag of coffee is up $7. So I just went on Amazon and posted, well, here's the quote for me, and it's not up $7. So again, everybody's
a little fact checking.
Yeah, a little fact checking real time. But again, yes, I don't really like tariffs, but we have to have fair trade agreements that make it a balance correctly. So I agree, though. Congress should have the power here, not the president. And Rand Paul actually had, I think, the best logical assumption. The president can have it for 90 days, and then Congress has to extend it 30 days at a time with a vote. Or it goes away. In other words, and if Congress doesn't act, then the power gets to stay with the president. But I think Congress needs to step up. But right now, it's too partisan for them to really get anything done. And I don't like the idea they're going to target just a product, right? So what's the matter, Don? How much do you love your coffee? Maybe shop elsewhere. I don't know.
20% more, I guess they're saying, compared to last year. The coffee on the shelf, the $10 can costs $12 now, I guess is what that means, or something.
Well, again, if you buy in bulk, you can probably still get discounts. And again, I showed that literally with some of the people that had, put some tweets or X out, or whatever you call it, X now. I still call it a tweet. But anyway, look, I think Rand Paul had the best idea here is Congress did abdicate the power, at least temporarily, to the executive branch, but they should claw it back after a timeline, and then we should have to have a vote to extend things or not extend them.
David, I want to shift gears to a CNBC headline because there was much ado about the recent rate cut by the Federal Reserve. But here comes a new Fed Governor, Stephen Miran. Well, here's the headline from CNBC. Fed Governor Stephen Miran pushes case for central bank to slash key interest rate. That's in addition to the recent reduction. In fact, he basically wants to see it cut in half, if I read the article properly.
Yeah, I believe we do what's called the dot plot after the Fed governor's vote. We plot out where they are forecasting the rest of this year and typically the next year. And most of the Fed governors see 1 to 2 more cuts this year and then 3 cuts next year. So that would be a total of 5 cuts. He's advocating for 5 cuts this year. Now, just so you understand, if the Fed were to cut 6 times between September and year end, that would be an outright panic to the markets. The economy is collapsing, and you would probably see some turmoil in the markets come from that. So literally, he's just doing Trump's bidding here. And again, I don't like this because he's the most recent governor put on the board, right? But it's like, okay, now you're just Trump's mouthpiece. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. And I don't think we need 5 rate cuts right away. I think that they were behind the curve. But I will tell you, the markets, again, like stability. Forecasts just tell us we're going to cut every month, every meeting. We are going to do a 1/4 point cut between now and next spring until we feel the data supports where we're supposed to be. But you cannot overreach one way or the other. You're going to create turmoil, especially in the bond market, which is significantly bigger than the equity markets. On
to a chart you shared with the team. This is from Jim Reed at Deutsche Bank, and it's talking about the relation of gold to the S&P and, some interesting numbers if you look back 20 or 25 years. Well, actually, if you go back all the way to 1980.
Yeah, so if you go all the way back to 1980, you've lost money if you've had all your money in gold. You've barely hung in there with inflation, where if you would have bought the S&P over that 45-year run, you'd be up over 4,500%, and it's got the exact percentage in the graph there.
4,250, 4,250%,
right? If you, though, the last, basically since the turn of the century, would have just went to gold, you would have outpaced the S&P 500.
Why?
Simply because the dollar has gotten significantly weaker. We've started printing money at an enormously fast rate. And that's all this is telling you, is that the dollar, again, is just a hedge against the currency you own it in.
Are you talking about things like quantitative easing?
Absolutely. Okay. And they're doing that right now. They're doing yield curve control through the backdoor process at the Fed and the Treasury, where they're not actually announcing QE, but they are, in fact, doing it. And all you have to do is look at M2, money supply, very easy graph to track how much money is in circulation. When the money supply goes up, if we don't have an expansion of goods and services, then the dollar is going to go down. It's really simple. And when you own gold, the dollar goes down, the price of gold goes up relative to the dollar, or relative to whatever currency you own it in. So the point I made when I sent that out is gold is a great asset. I just told the advisors this week in our Monday morning training, we're probably actually going to increase our allocation to gold. We have a portfolio we run called Smart CAR, and the CAR stands for Commodities, Alternatives, and REITs. And we think gold is likely to continue its rise in the near term. Now, I'm not advocating for you to go get one of these gold IRAs that are sold on the TV, because when you do those, they charge you storage fees, meltdown fees, all the kind. We've had a client that lost 40% when gold went up $600.
You've told that story.
And so before, again, but it is a great asset to temporarily allocate to in times of when the dollar is weakening, which is what we think we have right now. Again, that won't last forever, though, and that's why you have to have somebody actively managing the portfolios.
Thank you for listening to the Retire Smart podcast with David Brooks. If you want to learn how to generate lifetime income, reduce your tax bill, and maintain your lifestyle in retirement, visit retiresmartpodcast.com. And make sure to subscribe to keep up with new episodes every week. Neither Tom Osborne, Des Moines Adams, nor teammates are clients of Retire Smart. They were compensated for this sponsorship endorsement as such term is defined under SEC Rule 206, Section 4, Subsection 1. For further information about this sponsorship and the compensation details, visit retiresmartnow.com and click on the Sponsorships tab.